Good morning, my friends, and welcome to the 10-Minute Book Talk, where three best-selling authors talk all things bookish with you for 10 short and sweet minutes every week. I'm your host today, Rachel Linden, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-hostesses, Katherine Reay and Marie Bostwick. And today, I so love when this happens. We actually have Marie as our guest today because she has a fantastic new book coming out. It's like my favorite read of the year, and I'm not saying that because she's my friend or she lives near me. I'm saying that because it actually is a tremendous book and it's getting all kinds of buzz, and we are super, super excited. So today we are going to talk with Marie about her fabulous new book, The Book Club for Troublesome Women. And I looked at that title and I was like, yes, sign me up.
Yeah,
What's
but
that?
before we begin, I'm going to correct Rachel real quick. She said coming out. It launched yesterday.
Oh,
So
it's
it's
out. It's out in the
available,
world. Yay!
right?
It's out in
It
the
is
world at
available to
long
purchase,
last.
like
You can go
run,
out
run,
after this
run.
interview and
Yeah,
immediately get it for yourself. So
exactly.
thank you, Catherine. Marie, could you tell us a little bit about your fabulous new book?
I would love to. So the Book Club for Troublesome Women is set in a suburb of Northern Virginia, not too far from Washington, D.C., in 1963. It centers around four quietly unhappy housewives who are sort of wondering why having it all somehow doesn't seem like enough. When a mysterious new neighbor moves to town, who one of the characters really wants to get to know better, she comes up with the excuse of forming a book club. So they read many books, but the first book that they read is The Feminine Mystique. And that book, plus the many other books they read during the next tumultuous year, really changed their lives for the better.
Ooh,
Was
such a
so
good,
intriguing.
such
Pretty
a good.
good. Because we all know these two tease me about I'm really lousy at the elevator pitch. So
That
that's
was
pretty good for me,
concise. That was, oh,
Well done.
brilliant.
And
right?
a
But
great speaker.
where did this story come from? I mean, like, what started it?
I love this. This is one of my favorite things about this book. So, we never know where an idea will come from. This time it came to me about 3 years ago. So I was having a conversation with my mom, who is 92, but back then she was 89. And my mom she's a real pistol. I mean, she is a quick draw with a cocktail shaker. Uh, she still works part-time, and her aspirational exit strategy is to be shot by a jealous wife. So she is hilarious and sharp as a tack. She is an avid reader. And we were talking books one day when The Feminine Mystique by Betty Friedan came up. Came out in 1963 as a nonfiction book. It was a blockbuster. And she said, I don't know if I ever told you, Marie, but that book changed my life. And I said, no, you haven't. Tell me now. And she started talking, and the hair just stood up on the back of my neck. And I knew immediately that I had a terrific idea for a novel.
Oh
Outstanding.
my
I love
goodness.
that feeling.
Yeah. And now she's swanning around, she's like selling copies.
As she
She's so
should.
excited and proud. She's already, picking out her dress to wear to the Oscars for the non-existent movie deal that no one has called me about yet. But hopefully, if optimism can do it, it'll happen. So
She's
she's
ready.
ready.
Well, and you named one of the characters in the book after her, which is delightful. So, one of your strengths as a storyteller is that you write these fabulous ensemble books. It's never about one person, it's about a group of people and how they grow together, which I love. I think that really adds a lot of richness. So in this one, you have four women. You've got Margaret, you've got Viv, you've got Bitsy, and you've got Charlotte, who, spoiler, is my favorite because she's the most cantankerous of all of them. Um, I just love a misbehaving woman. And how in the world did you take four women with four different storylines, four character arcs? How do you tie them all together into one very satisfying story?
Yes, because apparently I refuse to do anything the easy way. I always figure out the hardest way possible to write a book. And I do like the ensemble cast of characters. Not every single time, but most of the time my books have three or four main characters. And it is tricky because there has to be one overarching story arc. But at the
Mhm.
same time, each of those main characters has to have her own personal story. So here's what I do, which is really goofy and complicated, but apparently the only way I can write a book. I actually go and I outline the story four different times in this case, according for each character. because each character, as we all do in life, considers herself the heroine of the story. So I outline the things that are happening from sort of their point of view. And as I do that, I begin to see like connection points where it's a good moment for that person to step in or another to step back. And you know, you also find out like what are those people, like what are their backgrounds and influences. And so you're really delving into who those characters are. The most important thing I think I figure out in that at that moment is like, what do those characters believe about life or themselves that are just flat wrong? And that really generally makes for some exciting ways to have fascinating things happen in the plot. So yeah, 4 outlines, and then I go back yet again and I write the whole outline once again. So it's a lot of work.
Okay, I'm
A lot of
exhausted.
work.
That's
It's
a
a
lot of
lot
work.
of work.
That's a lot of work. But you said something in your answer that struck me. You said something about interesting things happening, and that you have so many in this book. And I want to, because it does take place in 1963, tell us a little bit about your research and what surprised you as you were coming up with all those interesting things that really did
Yeah.
happen in those time period.
Yes. So, you know, some of the things that I mean, I was alive then, but not really cognizant. So, I did have a little bit of an advantage as far as some of just the atmospheric and textural things that are going on in the book. Because, you know, I remember when I was a kid, like a bowl of Captain Crunch and a glass of Tang was considered a perfectly acceptable breakfast to give to a child. So there were certain things like that. The fact that everybody smoked all the
Yep.
time. I mean, people were smoking all the time. Kids used to make ashtrays as gifts in like Sunday school and for the 3rd grade for their parents. No one would do that now. There's one scene I loved where the kids were playing Mousetrap, which if you grew up in the 60s, you knew Mousetrap was one of those games they had on television that looked so cool. It never worked, ever. The thing never fell the way it was supposed to. So there was all that kind of fun stuff. But I also went back and I did, you know, because I was aware of the feminine mystique and you know, some other books of the time that would have been popular, but I hadn't necessarily read all of them, with the exception of The Group by Mary McCarthy, which I have read many times already. So I went back and read the book and tried to put myself as like, if I am a woman in that time period, how is this going to hit me? And particularly too, I went back and I looked at like, what was life like for a housewife back in that time? Well, you know, when you get into it, we today are probably a little shocked by the rights that we kind of take for granted that simply were not available to women in that time. For example, here's just a little one. You know, it wasn't until 1965 that married couples were guaranteed a right to contraception by law. Up until 1974, women could be excluded from a jury simply for being women. I mean, it varied from state to state, but there were a lot of things, and this is one that more people do know about, but it's shocking. Many people who've read some early copies of the book are shocked that depending on where you lived, you know, you as a woman might not have been able to open a bank account or get a credit card without your husband's approval. So these were, you know, surprising to me to kind of, there were sort of things I knew but hadn't really honed in on. So
Yeah.
that was very interesting. Another thing I did was magazines, women's magazines were enormously important and influential in this period of time. Women's magazines were the TikTok of the day, right? I mean, you know, influencers, those magazines were influential. So I actually got in my hands on as many physical copies of women's magazines, vintage ones that I could find and afford. Some of them are very expensive, so that I could just sort of see what were the messages women were being given and sold, quite frankly. You know, what were the pressures that they were under? A lot of them are the same kinds of pressures that moms face today, that whole sense that whatever you do, it's just never quite enough. So there was a lot of things that resonated, but there were still a lot of things that surprised me. And most of all, it gave me a great respect for the generation that came before and all the things they have done to give us the lives that we can enjoy now.
Mm.
That was such a long answer. I'm
It was a good
excited
answer,
about this
though.
book.
We're at the 12-minute book talk today. Um,
Exactly.
so I am curious, now we're sitting in 2025 as women in 2025. What do you think are the really pertinent themes for us, for readers to take away?
Well, my primary job is to tell a great story. So that's the first thing I want to do. So what I really hope readers take away is that they have been on a fabulous journey that's with interesting characters, and that they will be sad to say goodbye to those characters when the page closes. But if there was just one or two things that I would hope that readers come away with, it's for me kind of, there's a page that's like the core message that I want to do. And it's Margaret, who is kind of the main character among the many characters, says. And she says that she has learned that there are countless good and right ways to be a woman, and only two that are wrong. The first is to insist that your way is the way, the only right and good way. And the second is to buy into that nonsense and spend the rest of your life limping along in shoes that will never, ever fit. So for me, that's the core of the book.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it.
Love the
Yes.
visual there of limping
Yeah.
along in shoes that never fit.
Right? Because
Good visual.
don't we all hate
We all know.
like
We
a
all
shoe
know.
that hurts is the
Doesn't fit.
worst.
Uncomfortable shoes. All right, Marie. Well, as you know, I'm going to ask you the question that we ask every author, and that is, Marie Bostwick, what is bringing you joy today?
Well, what is bringing me joy today is, we're recording this a few weeks before the release, but when it airs, it is going to be the day after the book has been out in the world. And what's bringing me joy right now is thinking about this giant book tour that I am going on. It is like the longest book tour I've ever done. It's 6 weeks, 11 states, more than 50 events. And it's going to be wonderful. And I love the fact that so many of my author friends will be in conversation. So it's like a twofer, right? It's like a BOGO, buy one author, get two kind of a thing. So Rachel, you and I have done an event. Katherine, if I were in Montana, we'd be doing it.
I was about to say, I forgive you for not coming.
Well, maybe later I'll be able to. So it's going to be really great. And what would give me extra joy is if everybody watching would go to my website, mariebostwick.com, look on my calendar, see if I'm going to be in your area. It would make me so happy if you would come to one of my book events. I could sign a book for you. We could have a hug and a picture. It'd be awesome. So that's my definition of joy.
That is fantastic. Okay, Marie, well, will you hold your book up again?
Yes.
So friend, run, don't walk. Order this book immediately. You will not be sorry. Order it for any woman in your life who enjoys being a troublesome woman. I am one of them. Many of us are. It is a fantastic story, and you can order it now, and then you can go have Marie sign it, and that will be even better. So we are so thankful that you were able to be here. We are so excited about your fantastic book. It's going to do amazingly, and we will see you, those of you who are watching, next week on the 10-Minute Book Talk for more book talk fun. We'll see you later. Bye,
Bye, guys.